Hey guys, I'm FatBuddyCat, and this is a wicked little mini bike. Alright, today we're going to be installing a clutch and a chain on this slightly custom Coleman CT100U. But before we do that, I have to add something that I forgot yesterday. We need a fuel filter. It's just an inline job I had sitting around. It's clean on the inside. Got a little dirt on the outside. We're going to run it. We're going to need a pair of scissors and one of these stock choke levers. Weird, I know. Since we already have gas in our tank, this is also going to require something to drain into. This little phallus on the end of the choke lever fits into your fuel line. It works with the stock ones, and it works with this 3/16 Tygon. So when I snip it, I'm going to try to drop this end down into my catch container so that I don't spill it all over the floor. I'm then going to stick that phallus into the fuel line coming from the tank down. I'm going to snip it right about there. That way the filter is hanging down and the gas will flow through it nicely. I get kind of a one-time shot at this, so I'm pinching the line on the tank side. I'm going to cut this line next to my finger without cutting my finger. I'm going to try to pinch the other side with my other hand. I might be able to do this with my chin. Oh yeah, we're through. Okay. Draining down below. Pinched up top. Give me that. Stick that in there. Alright. Not too bad. Look at that. Didn't even spill it. Not that there was much in that end anyway. Got a little bit up here on our sticker. Alright, we're good to go. I'm going to put the filter in this end first. That way I'm not dealing with a live line and gas coming through the filter and then fumbling for this. So I'll make sure I'm routed around where the line won't get hung up on anything or interfere with my sweet throttle linkage. The old pinch-a-rooney. And we are live right up to our shutoff valve. I'm going to take couple zip ties. I'm going to wrap them around both my inlet and outlet, around the hose, cinch it tight. Since we're already on the straight and narrow, and being honest about our mistakes today, this filter leaks. So, grr. How else was I gonna know? You know what I mean? You gotta use it to find out. So, I found out. I'm gonna repeat the process, and I'll have to use one of these new ones that I have. This one is a screen material inside, and I would consider that high flowing in comparison to this style. I'm thinking, oh, hold more gas, but there's more filter. This one, you get a long filter. We're gonna try this one with the hot orange. Maybe that's some kind of racing color. I got it everywhere except where it needed to be. I'll tell you, these 3x8 gas tanks, they might not hold a lot, but the pressure that was coming out of this line when I snipped it was absolutely ridiculous. It just went everywhere. But it's on there, and my zip ties are good. It's not going to pull apart. This is a 1/4 inch, I believe, valve with the 3/16 stretched over the barb, so that also doesn't pull apart easily. The old zip tie down there too. I don't keep engines on things very long, so we're gonna be all right. To get the chain on this mini bike, we're gonna need a second sprocket. That is on the clutch. We're gonna install that next. Now we're going to install this clutch. Well, at least we're going to get it on the output shaft. That way we have a general idea as to where we have to move the engine with the adjustable billet plate to make an alignment with the existing sprocket in the rear. I felt a good bit of resistance when placing that clutch on and pulling it off. I'm going to go around my shaft with just a little bit of grease. This is just like a no-seas application. Very light. That way our clutch slides a lot better. Sweet. I have a grade 8 bolt, lock washer, and a flat washer. I'm going to use the key that came with it. I'll insert that so that it locks it onto the shaft, and then I'll place on my hardware. Once the two keyways are lined up, I just insert the key. I'm not going to be torquing this bolt home at all. We're just bringing it in so that it's snug and the position of the clutch and the sprocket doesn't change on us while we're trying to line up with the rear. I just went ahead and loosened all 8 of my mounting points. 4 nuts on the block and the 4 nuts down below. We can now move the engine from side to side, front to back. We're going to try to hold everything back as much as we can in order to gain that extra real estate over there on the right foot peg. So we're going to pull our chain out and loop it over the 2 sprockets so that we can get an idea of our length. Since we're running the stock sprocket in the rear and a max torque SS with a 12 tooth set up for 35 chain, we're not going to skimp on the strength. This is an RLV Extreme. I'll get it opened up, but I believe this one is the Gold on Gold. It's good stuff. This is a win-win. This came with 2, says connecting link assemblies. They're master links. Clip to this one is still in the bag. What's even better, there's one on the chain too. So we have 3 total. This is going to be the smart end. This is going to be the end that we're going to be taking links out of. I'll figure out where it goes, and then I'll pick out the link, I'll mark it, and then I'll meet you back up at the workbench. Yep, this is more awkward than it looks, but you can see the link that I marked, and on the other end next to my thumb there, that's the master link. So if we take this link right here out, the master link will replace it. Number 35 chain brake. Here's the link that we're removing. This bolt holds the chain in place. This one has the pin that is going to press out the link. So make sure the chain is sitting flat. We're going to line up the pin that we're removing. Make sure it sits nice and flush and flat inside the brake. and bring the pin, this one, up to the face of that one. And then I'm going to tighten this one. Nothing extreme, but I will be using a wrench. It's just past finger tight. You don't want to squeeze too hard and damage the link. You're just holding things in place. This one, I'm going to use some force. I'm going to send the bolt home, and it's going to press the pin out into this void. I have it started. You can see the pin is working its way out the end and into that void I was talking about. Keep going. Almost there. Okay. I'm bottomed out. I'm through. I'll loosen this a little bit. And then this one. You gotta make sure you get the pin all the way out. This one. Alright. And I'll grab a pair of pliers and yank that the rest of the way. Just these little guys. Didn't take that much force at all. I probably could have done that by hand. But here is the end that we're left with. This is now going to connect to the end with the master link. Boy, doesn't that look good? Uh-oh. We made a mistake. The tensioner is all the way forward. It can't go back. The engine is pulled all the way back, so we can't make the two ends meet. What a bummer. It's a good thing we got those extra master links though. This is why it's good to always be prepared. So we're short, and this is our chain. We have two of the same ends. A master link can connect the two. I have half links, but they're for a regular 35 chain. We're not going to be able to add one of those. And that really wouldn't help us with our tensioner situation either. What we need to do is come up with a full link that has two of these ends as well. That means we have to press out the next link, which would be this pin right there. Here's what we're left with. Now I'm going to attach this to the main chain with one of these spare master links. When you're placing your links, you want to pay attention to which way the clip is going. We want the closed end to be going with the rotation of the chain. So if this were the outside diameter of a sprocket and this chain was pulling around, right, we want it to be going in this direction. If we were going in the opposite direction, say this was somewhere in the chain and we were coming around the sprocket, we would be going against the rotation. If this were to catch something hanging inside the clutch, maybe something on the tensioner wheel, it is a lot more apt to pop off. That wouldn't be good. I'm going to do the same thing with the master link that I place on this end. That way they're both going with rotation. Oh no. Now when the engine's pulled all the way forward, the chain is too loose. There's one master link, and here is where the other one was going to go. So if we take just this one link out, we should be able to attach this master link onto the end of this link right here. That should give us exactly what we need. When you're looking at it from above and separate, it's a little easier to think about. When we were forced to add our extra master link, we end up with a total of 1, 2, 3 links longer than we need. If we can pull back one link on this end, we'll only be adding 2 total. Technically, we're right back where we would have been had the chain not been cut too short in the first place. Both master links going the same way. It might be argued that you could spread your master links out, but from my experience in fixing these things, your weakest link is your weakest link, no matter what. These are not very weak links. We can now bring the engine forward a little bit and use our tensioner. It doesn't take much when you're pulling a chain tight. You can see we still have a fat 1/2 inch that we can slide forward. We also have our tensioner wheel. Now that we have our length set, we have to figure out our alignment. This means we're going to have to move the engine side to side until the chain is perfectly straight. I just set my engine all the way to the right and then pulled it straight forward to add a little bit of tension to the chain. Now I'm going to loosen up this bolt and bring my tensioner wheel back. And the hits just keep on coming. Since we lifted the engine, the tensioner is now too low to really engage with the chain. We're going to need to lift its position laterally so that it goes up under the chain, and then we want it to still move back and forth so that we can keep that adjustment. I think I figured out a really simple way to fix this. This is just a door stop. You might find one mounted on each side with a 2x4 slung across. Yep, that's what this is. So it's high tensile enough for security purposes, and it should work in this application as well. We take the stock tensioner off. We're going to go up and behind. The bend on the bottom goes underneath the frame like a hook. Now you can see that punch mark in the middle of the slot. We're going to drill a hole there so that a bolt comes through and we can slide forward and back. But because we're hooked under the frame, it can't tilt side to side. The second hole is going to be for the tensioner itself. You want to make sure that the head of the bolt is going to clear the radius of your pulley. That way, when you mount it, it doesn't interfere. I'm going to drill my holes out, and I will cut these ends off. I'll get back to you in a minute. I have my pilot holes drilled out. If I take my tensioner and I center it on that pilot hole, and then I take this washer, which my bolt is going to pass through, and I center that on the lower pilot hole, I can see the clearance that I'll have between the two. That is very important. Here's what it looks like. Drilled out. The edges rounded and light sanding. A little bit of lacquer thinner on a rag. Next, primer and paint. Not too bad. Originally, I was going to install this so that the head of the bolt was coming from the inside. I'm going to turn it around. I know that I'll have enough room on the back side where I'll be using that same washer I spaced it out with before. You feel me now? To make up for the extra cyborg meat, we'll be using a bolt that is just slightly longer. Other than that, it's the same thing. I actually had to loosen the 4 nuts on the bottom and slide the engine back slightly so that I could get my chain back on. But here we are. This bracket is still loose, but you can see we are now making contact with the chain. So when we slide this back, we're actually putting tension on the chain. That's actually too much tension, and we still have some to go. I'll get it where I think it needs to be and tighten the bolt up on the bottom. I mean, there's a smooth operator, and then there's something like this. Woo-wee! That's hot butter, boys and girls. The last thing we have to do is tighten the bolt for the output shaft. Even with my linkage, I have it set up so that I only have to remove the 3 8mm bolts, just like you would with a stock pull starter. I can now access my flywheel nut. I hold that with one hand and take my wrench and tighten my bolt with the other hand. I'm not putting the amount of torque on this bolt that I do to set this flywheel. Let's give it a start and just make sure that it's not going to take off on us. I'm pretty confident with that. That'll do. I just removed the mini bike from the garage floor. I have my helmet ready, and I'll be sure to keep my Crocs in the locked position. Up next, we're going for a test ride, because as always, it's a work in progress. Have a good night, guys. Thanks for watching. And I'll catch you on the next one.
I want you to stay.